Billy Lee, Limerick Senior Football Manager. We've had some great chats offline already, Billy. Before we even get started, I won't keep you long. Billy, people will know you as the Limerick Senior Football Manager now, and the purpose of these videos is to get a coaching insight. So how did you become Billy Lee the coach, and take me from the start all the way through to where you are now?
I suppose ultimately my love of the game. I've been involved with GAA since I was maybe 12. We didn't start so young back in my time, but and I suppose I was always intrigued by the challenges of how managers managed. Not that I realised it at that time when I was playing, but and I suppose the passion for it led on to taking over the team in Newcastle when injury curtailed my playing days in my early 30s, and it probably snowballed from there. Obviously, that's our bones of 20 years ago now, and the person I was then as a coach, manager, was completely different now. You didn't have as many coaching courses or anything like that. You felt your way along, and you took up bits and pieces from different people you encountered your playing days, and eventually you kind of form your own slant in it and your own way of handling different things. And I think that was the journey, really.
Yeah, you just touched on it there. We all look back at it when we started coaching, where we are now. Can you think back to those early Newcastle training sessions and kind of you're smiling already? Would you
certainly
preach a little bit?
Yeah, well, you would. Most definitely you would. And I think anyone that would say differently wouldn't be probably telling the full truth. Yeah, I mean, in the early days, I would have covered every blade of the field and the perimeter to talking to players. And you got more animated. Oh God, I'm sure if you asked past players, there'll be some colourful stories. But I suppose now what I do is I just stand on the sideline and let all the mayhem go on around me, because I believe that if you can't get your message across either in the dressing room, through the training or through team, you're not going to get it when the players are in the heat of battle, because they've enough going on in their own minds, and roaring in at times can actually, it's only nice to them. So I believe that you've got to get right up close to a fella so he hears the message. I don't believe, no, you'll roar words of encouragement and they'll know by your animation on the line that you're encouraging them, or you're telling them get their rear end in gear. So, but other than that, I stand, I observe, and I make decisions from there.
You learned that behaviour, did you, Billy, or were you always like that? Was that something you would have been like as a player, even, that you liked that encouragement or tactics? Or
no, I suppose in my early days, I said I'd have gone around and I'd have been up and down the line and getting onto players and kicking every ball. But I think there's a transition from the playing to the management, that initially you're kicking every ball because you really want to be out there kicking the ball, literally. But you can. So it takes a transition to come from playing to managing or coaching, and realising that players aren't going to pick it up just because you're doing that on the sideline. In actual fact, it can cause confusion. And I suppose then you get more animated in the dressing room. I certainly did in some games. As I said, there was some colourful stories, and you think you're doing the right thing to inspire people, and you're doing the very, very opposite, So, and I think when you're delivering messages, you have to keep them very short. 3 positives to 1 negative is the way you do it, unless it's very bad. And I think back to the day of Long Cork when it was very bad last year. And I think after 10 minutes, I turned to Brian and I said, we'll make no switches here in the first half, because at that time I just felt that the players needed protection, because there was a lot of excitement coming out of the tip game, and the lads were learning and knew how to handle this. And we didn't handle it that well, and we've had them conversations. But again, they needed protection from themselves in that case. And we did the changes in the dressing room at half time, so no one had to do the long march. And no one change that day was going to change it, so I didn't feel it was appropriate to take off 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people and make them feel that they were the victims of a panel thing through all of us. So, you learn them things. Mightn't have done that in years gone by, but you learn as you get older and you get wiser.
Yeah, these conversations always take brilliant tangents. Let's talk about that night in Cork, because I was there, Billy, and we were doing the commentary on the game. The first minute of the game, maybe, ball hits the, if I'm right, post, crossbar, bounces down, hits the goalkeeper on the back, and still comes out. I think you turned to someone at that stage and said, this might not be our night. That kind of experience, you get to feel that you needed that to happen for things to go well that night. That's experience on the sideline, isn't it?
Yeah, that's something I learned in an under-21 county final. some years ago, we played South Luty's Blown Skeeton, and one of the members of the Backtown team, Wally Keane, went through, drove for goal, down the town in goals in Skeeton. Went just danced the merry jig through hit a rasper, hit the crossbar, came out 35 yards. We were beating a point. And that's a fact. The power of it, it was like a clearance when it hit the crossbar. And, you know, I've always seen that, and I'll always, when I see things like that happen, then I said, right, it ain't going to be all night, so you know. But no, that wouldn't be true for every little situation like that. But in the majority of situations like that, whether if I see teams not getting chances, and or I think it's either going to be all looked that night or not. And I do kind of see that, and I've seen a lot of it, even in games I wouldn't be involved in. If you watch those things over the years, unless you're pulverising a team, you will miss some chances, and then you'll get the scores. But if it's a very nip and tuck game, and teams don't put away those chances, you're going to get punished, and you can put it down to whatever you want after that. But yeah, and I think they just went into gear. But I think the thing that night for me about Cork was the respect they paid the Limerick team, because by God, from the very first minute in that play, Rory Dean came from the centre forward position and chased all the way back. They were up for that game from the word go, and it was very evident in that little play. And all of a sudden it was 2-5 to no score after something like 10 minutes. And yeah, and I'm sure our lads were young, they're inexperienced against teams like that, in championship games like that. And the last thing you want to be doing is putting them to the slaughter ourselves. They needed protection that night. They were a good team. They've shown that since in their progression. And on that particular night, they needed just minding. And I think we did that quite well. And, you know, we made changes at halftime. It still didn't impact the game. It was one of those situations, but it was important to mind people. And there will be times like that managers have to suck up the criticism that will come their way. It didn't really bother me because I was old, I was experienced, and I knew the bigger picture was these lads, and I had known what had gone on in the previous 3 weeks to know what was leading up to what was unfolding in front of us, you know. So yeah, so one of those things. But thankfully, you know, we had experience behind us between Adrian, Brian, Shamey and Sean and myself. So yeah, and whatever flat came, it came. At least we are experienced enough to take that. And sometimes you have to do that as a manager coach. You have to suck it up from criticism and protect players, depending on the age profile and the experience they have.
Yeah, knowing Brian Begley and Adrian O'Brien and those lads as well as I do, they're learning from you every day. Tell me, who did Billy Lee learn from? I know you were a selector for a long time with Limerick and went through the ranks under 21 and junior as well as manager, but who did you pick up things from playing and obviously as a selector?
Well, back in the day, like we were very fortunate in Newcastle. Back in the mid-80s, we were a very successful bunch of lads coming through and hurling and football. And men like Denny O'Grady, Murty O'Connor, Dan Murphy, got to be good to Dan, Brian Judge, got to be good to Brian, he was trainer, and men like that, Moss Brewer, got to be good to Moss. Men like that were very much to the fore. Peter Curtin started coming on the scene as well at that stage, and they were great men who had our best interests at heart and always looked after us on and off the field. And certainly Denny O'Grady was a mighty man in that aspect, and one that a lot of people in Newcastle would quite unassuming man, but you know, he's pride amongst us, and how proud we would be of that man to have had him, you know, and the way he looked after us. And then up through, when he went down up along, then I suppose obviously Liam and Darcy had the privilege. And then I suppose when I went back to Kerry for many years, you'd men like Johnny Mulvihill, Stephen Stack working with those, and Bowden Listowel, and working with Pat Flanagan and Stephen and Austin Stacks. And, you know, at that stage you were working, we had a very good Limerick team back in the early 90s. And I played with a very good Limerick team, and you learn from that. And then when you get into dressing rooms with the equals of Paul Galvin, Ty Kennelly, Noel Kennelly, Cian Donaghy, you know, Glenn Bohan, you start to pick up other things and you see how it's done. And it does give you knowledge and information. You just see. So it all. But I have to go back to my youth and Denny O'Grady, Murty O'Connor, and that bunch of people I called out, Moss Brewer, Dan Murphy. That's where it all passed out. I suppose I would be remiss not to mention my mother in the midst of this, because her desire to drive us on, and in a nice, polite way. She wasn't inside in the kitchen, at the table, anything you have to do this, that, and the other. But it was always encouraging us to go and play and and always there to support us as young people. So that that obviously was important as well, because maybe we wouldn't have stayed at it as long. And look, I'm no different to many other people up and down the country. Parents have a massive impact on people's love for games outside of jail, rugby, golf, whatever your game is, So.
Are you the type of coach, Billy, that sees something at a session or sees something in the game, comes home, writes it down, or does it all go into the head and left in there? Are you a kind of an analytical guy that way, or is it more about the just learning by seeing?
Learning by seeing. I've often got the training sessions with teams, either in Limerick or in Kerry, and made up drills on the way back, whereby I know what I want to do, and I'm trying to complement it with an attacking versus defence, or vice versa. And you bring drills, and but you know what you want. And once you know what you want, and based on what went in the game before and what the areas we need to work on, whether it's the skill based, tactical based, and I would write down drills and stuff on paper and kept them over the years. But a lot of it kind of comes from the head. And I think a big part of the modern game is fitness and tactical stuff. But I think that's fine to a point. But if you're coming from a low base, whatever team or county or club, you've got to go back to the skills, because you can be chasing out having fit players or going all the tactics, but if people can't execute skills correctly, you'll be chasing the ball all day long. So you need to be fit, obviously, at that stage, but maybe tactics don't go out the window. So I think you have to assess. What I tend to do when I go out to places is assess what I have at that point in time. Don't make any rash statements. Understand, because what I might think is in my head is doable may not be doable in their heads. So you've got to assess your what's in front of you, where their capabilities, and go from there.
Yeah, last question for me now, Billy. I know you're conscious of time, as am I, keeping you away from work. So what are the unique factors that you've had to deal with Limerick football? Is that some people have left the panel for different reasons. Not everyone has come back year on year. How have you kept A, your motivation up, and B, the squad's motivation up, and bringing guys in to be what has, up until COVID-19, a fantastically successful season so far?
Yeah, well, I suppose the one thing is, I suppose when I look at the Germany and from my second year, and the overall riding situation at that point was that we had young men who were keen to play and test themselves. They didn't have the physical attributes required at that point, and in some cases didn't have the skills or didn't have the tactical know-how. They were keen, they were fit, and you just work with that then. And to be fair to them, I was pushing an open door, and there was a lot of mind. They were young and they needed minding off the field as well to help them in life's challenges through college, through work environments. If they're not getting on the team, making us, approachable, so that they felt that they could talk to us, that it wasn't, feared in because they wouldn't be enjoying it. So making it enjoyable, making us, approachable, having fun when there's time for fun, being serious when there's time for serious, creating that environment of good behaviours and fun. And started from there then. But I must stress, we were working with a lot of good lads. Now, some lads were up, the Garretts, the Donalds, the Ians, Jamies, and fellas like that, Danny's. They knew what was, because they had been in the latter end of, Dean Ryan, Perran, and Shawnee Buckley era. But others didn't, and just because we say it doesn't mean they'll understand it. You have to give time, you have to help them through it. And so you were trying to manage the higher expectations to the lower expectations. So you stretch the bar above the lower, and you talk to the lads that are at the higher just to bear with us, give us a bit of time to bring these lads with them, support them, and you sort of all the structures within the scope. And something that's, and I don't know, it's not called out, but I'm sure it goes on in many squads. Fun is a huge element in this, and I think COVID-19 will actually bring this back more openly. And we build stuff off the field. Then I suppose the team that stays together, plays together, looks after each other together. And that was a big part of it too. That we did things like training weekends at the time were focused on championship, but I brought him back to the start of the league because the league was more important to us than championship. Because if we couldn't win games in the Division 4 of the league, preparing for championship was way off the mark. You're so far out of kilter what's reality. So we went back, we did that, but then we did things around Christmas, and we got great support from the county board at times, the Fitzgeralds and the Woodlands, about going to race days, bringing fellas together around Christmas time, having the day out, getting lads to know each other. They knew of each other, but did they know themselves? And then as that developed, they got to know each other's families, and we started building that kind of stuff as well, that you kind of create this family. We don't have a big pool of population of people in the county, but what we have are keen and eager, and you give them the best tools for them to be the best they can be. And whatever that takes us to, that's it. Once they are trying their best to be the best, there's nothing more you can ask of them, because we don't have a bigger population of football people to take it to another level until we build a really solid foundation. So it materializes year on year from that, and you have to stretch the bar a bit further year on year, and that's how the journey has gone, and it's always been a step more and a step more year on year. And look, I think a lot of the stuff that they'll learn will be good on the field, off the field, and when we do leave them at some point, they'll be able to manage the next, because these lads are young and we're building a squad. I think as well a big part of it is that we've stayed, after year one, I stayed away from bringing in too many young lads, because it's really, really difficult. These lads have the talent. We know they have the talent, but coming in and spending all this time training, travelling to training, and putting their lives on hold with little game time is actually not leading to their enjoyment. And I saw a lot of that. So we've kind of stayed to fellas who can really push the squad 22, 23, and it gives these lads other time then to grow and develop in their own time, enjoy college life, get through college life, but still not lost to the football world, and they're not getting sick of it. And it's not surprising we're getting a lot of fellas back who opted out in year 2, because they had been in for a number of years and they were really tired of it because they weren't getting game time. And it's a massive, massive commitment, because it's not just, I think people will see it in social media, the football world has stopped in light of COVID-19, but people are still training, they're still watching their diet, they're still doing all that when there's no activity and unlikely to be activity. So we've got to be mindful of that, not to kind of exhaust people long before they hit the playing ground. And there's two other things in that then as well. The physical aspects of men, they've got to build themselves up, and the tactical side of it, that unfortunately our club scene doesn't prepare us for that. And we've just got to give time for fellas to blow. It doesn't mean they're not good enough, it does. And I suppose one of the things, you don't want to give them out the jersey too easy. We've got to make fellas realise it's something to be proud of, it's something to be delighted to wear. You earn it, it's not given to you, and it's not a divine right. So you get the balance in all in, but it's not easy. But that's probably the overview of it, Dom.
No, listen, I appreciate it. Billy, thank you very much for taking the time out to join me. The idea of this is Coaching Insights. We certainly got them. I really appreciate it. And look after yourself. Thank you very much.
We got through the IT challenges anyway, Dan. So
we always do. Cheers, Billy.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. Cheers. Bye-bye.